Would you like to feel more self-confident, be more assertive, or have the courage to take more calculated risks in your life? If you're the kind of person who enjoys my content, the answer is most likely yes. Today, I'm going to explain to you why doing hard things is the key to you building more confidence, more courage, and more assertiveness in your life, as they are skills that can be taught and learned and improved on. I'm going to show you how you can become more of an extrovert if you are an introvert, or more of an introvert if you are an extrovert. I'm going to explain how I overcame a crippling fear of public speaking and give you some actionable challenges that you can take away and start using it in your life today, so that you can embrace discomfort and the power of doing hard things. In working with my mastery clients to set their goals and aspirations for 2026, one thing came up consistently in a few of the conversations that I've had, and it is that many of the guys that I work with closely want to feel more confidence in situations that make them feel uncomfortable, or they want to feel like less of a pushover and be more assertive, for example, in their work or in their relationships, or that they know that they are not tapping into their innate potential to have the confidence and courage to take risks in their life that they know would be beneficial to them. And maybe you feel that too. If you've ever felt frustrated by having a lack of confidence, maybe it's being the center of attention or public speaking, or maybe it's being in an awkward social situation like in the gym. Or if you've ever felt like you would have loved to be more assertive in a situation where you weren't or you didn't speak up. Maybe it's speaking up first in a meeting. Maybe it's putting yourself out there for an opportunity in your career. Or maybe it's not leading your life, your family, and others in the way that you would like to. Then know that all of those skills can be improved upon. Most things are malleable. Most things are not set. And we hold ourselves back with so much baggage about our previous experience and the stories that we've been telling ourselves in our life up to this point. The way that you build those qualities as skills is by frequently getting out of your comfort zone and taking small, low risk, and uncomfortable actions, because by doing that, you reinforce the idea that you are capable of more than you've done before. That will prove to you that you can overcome resistance, that you can overcome procrastination, that you can overcome discomfort and inertia, and that you can disrupt the status quo in your life. This is not some woo-woo concept. This is backed by science. There's a very famous TED Talk that's often referenced by Amy Cuddy about how your body language can shape who you are, and it introduces the concept of fake it till you make it. If you don't feel like you belong, if you experience imposter syndrome, the way to overcome that imposter syndrome is by showing up as if you are the person that you want to be. And over time, you gradually reinforce the identity of that person and then become that person. And it's built on the same concept. You get out of your comfort zone, you disrupt the status quo, you take risks, you embrace discomfort, and you build confidence, you build belief, you build strength of character that can only be built by embracing discomfort and overcoming small problems. This is about adopting a growth mindset and pushing yourself to new heights and unlocking potential that is within you, whether that's better performance at work or putting yourself forward for opportunities, feeling more confident in public places, whether it's meeting new people at a party or in an environment that you don't feel confident in. The gym is a common one amongst people that I speak to. Improving your relationships, public speaking, or anything else. The key is getting out of your comfort zone and what you've done before and into the growth zone. Now, there's a balance to be struck here. The comfort zone is the things that we know we can do. It feels comfortable. It feels safe. It's easy. We don't feel challenged. So we need to stretch ourselves and expand our comfort zone gradually over time. And the way that we do that is we put ourselves in uncomfortable situations. But they can't be so uncomfortable and so difficult that you don't feel confident that you can actually achieve them. That is what leads to stress, unhappiness, and a feeling of helplessness. So there's a balance. We need to get out of our comfort zone and into the growth zone, but not push ourselves too far too quickly so that it just becomes an unmanageable mess. And the way that we do that is by taking low risk opportunities. Because some of the things that we're going to cover here, the downside is so small that it feels much more uncomfortable than it really is in reality. For example, if you're someone who struggles a bit with meeting new people or public speaking, one of the things that you can do to gradually improve your confidence of doing those things is by speaking to strangers. This is something that I've had to do myself. As a natural introvert, I am uncomfortable meeting new people sometimes or speaking to strangers and things like that. So the way that I've gradually overcome that is when I have the opportunity to smile and say hello to a stranger or, strike up a conversation with a stranger. I used to do it in the sauna when I trained in a gym with a sauna, or, maybe you're waiting in the supermarket or you're on the train next to someone and they're reading an interesting book or whatever it might be. Imagine doing that consistently. And that might make you feel like, oh, fuck, I can't do that. Well, what's the real downside? The real downside is someone feels you're a bit weird or doesn't respond in the way that you want to. But there is literally nothing lost there because you don't know that person. If you smile at a stranger and say hello, or you compliment a stranger's t-shirt or trainers, or they're wearing a band t-shirt of a band you enjoy, and they don't reciprocate, nothing is lost. It feels massive to us if we are someone who struggles with those things, but really we're taking low risk bets. The upside is you build confidence. The downside is basically nothing. And that's the key to making this a success. That is the key to doing hard things, but not so difficult that you put yourself in a position where there's massive levels of stress. One of my clients asked me this week how I am able to show up as an extrovert when I describe myself as an introvert. And I am an introvert. I've done all of the psychological tests in my corporate career, Myers-Briggs and all of those, and they consistently put me on the introverted side of the spectrum. And I know this to be true because I love solitude. I love introspection, reflection, quiet. And I also know that whilst I do enjoy being in social situations, my social battery depletes very, very quickly. And I need to really make sure that I'm protecting my energy and protecting my time in a way that allows me to thrive in those situations and not just feel drained. But I've had to work on this. And the key to that was doing hard things. For me, the biggest fear that I had in my career was a fear of public speaking. I hated being the center of attention. I hated putting myself in situations where I would have to speak up or have to present. And then I took a job opportunity in the NHS that forced me into that situation. It was a great opportunity and I really enjoyed it, but it put me in a situation where I would have to consistently be standing up in front of groups of professionals and presenting to them. And that was so scary. The first time, I can still remember it. I can vividly remember the room in my head. It was in Sheffield. It was a room full of pharmacists. There were about 50 people there, I think. And I was presenting on some IT application. I was so scared that even whilst presenting, I didn't stand up. I didn't command the attention of the room. I stayed sat down, fiddled around with my mouse and tried to speak as loudly as I could. And although I felt accomplished and proud that I'd done that afterwards, my boss did say to me, that was really good, well done. Next time, stand up. And then from there, I did it again. Next time I did stand up. Then I realized this is actually okay. I know what I'm talking about, therefore I'm the person that people are listening to. And then I did it again and again, and I had to go to different clinical settings on my own and meet new people and train them on this IT application and all of this stuff that I'd never done before. From that point, whilst public speaking still made me feel uncomfortable and it was still stressful and I still had to prepare properly in order to feel confident that I knew what I was doing, it was much, much less difficult. To the point that later in my career, I was invited to present at conferences on cybersecurity and other things like that as an authority in that space. And then towards the end of my career, I was asked to be the host of the National NHS Cyber Community Network. Started off terrified of public speaking, and then towards the end of my career, I was standing up in front of rooms of 200 or more and chairing conferences and chairing Q&As and introducing guest speakers and all of that. But I couldn't have gone from a fear of public speaking to immediately doing that. I gradually expanded the zone of what felt comfortable to the point where, towards the end of my career, it wasn't really a big thought. I felt like an authority in the space. I knew what I was talking about. I had a good reputation, and therefore it was much less of a big deal. Now, it still filled me with a little bit of dread just beforehand. I had to practice my lines. I had to focus on my breathing so that I knew that I could speak with authority and I would speak calmly and I wouldn't rush through. But it was much, much less difficult. That's just one example. But it's a great example because overcoming that fear allowed me to put myself into more social situations and be the first to introduce myself to new people in a professional setting or in a social setting, or repeat people's names back to them when I met them so I would remember them. All of these things that used to fill me with dread, and all of these things that are traditionally qualities of an extrovert, the things I was able to learn and improve on and build my confidence in. And that is how I show up as an extrovert, even when I'm not one. Another example, a more recent example, when I started Mind and Matter Fitness, before it was even a thing really, my previous business mentors said, okay, so you're going to build this little challenge and you're going to get people in for free and you're going to give them like an idea of the kinds of things that you think around training and nutrition. You're going to give them some help. And to promote that, you're going to do a Facebook Live on your Facebook to all of your followers and people you know. No one does Facebook Lives anymore, but back then that was the thing. And the fear was the same then as when I started public speaking, because this was a new domain. I was putting myself out there in a completely different way. This was not something that anyone knew I was doing. And the idea was I was going to press record, go live on Facebook. People would be watching or they'd watch back afterwards and I'd be talking about, I'm doing this new thing. I'm trying this new thing out. Anyone interested? It took me hours to press that button and go live. I can remember my finger shaking like this. Oh my God, what am I doing? And, you know, the reception was awesome. People were like, this is so cool. Yeah, I'm interested. And in fact, I got a few clients from that, my first ever clients. But obviously now I'm putting myself out there doing face to camera work every week. And I don't think anything of it. In fact, I enjoy it now. I enjoy sharing ideas and I enjoy yapping, as my kids would inevitably call it. But I didn't just go straight into doing a long form 30-minute podcast face to camera. I started small, but that reinforced the idea that actually I am capable of doing this. I can do this. And actually the reception was good. And even if the reception hadn't been good, there's no downside to that. People are disinterested. Okay, that's fine. We adapt, we evolve, we try something else. That didn't happen, but if it had, then that would have also been okay. You too can show up as more of an extrovert, even if you are an introvert. And by the way, this works both ways. Traditionally, in society, we are conditioned to think that being extroverted is good and being introverted is a disadvantage. That is not true at all, because the characteristics of an introvert can be just as much of a superpower as they can for an extrovert. So for the extroverts among you, I would encourage you to look at what makes you feel uncomfortable that might be traditionally introverted. And you should be looking to work on those skills. So if you are not comfortable sitting with your own thoughts or being alone in public or solitude, then you need to work on that. And the same thing applies. You just flip it over and you work on the kinds of things that make you feel uncomfortable about being on your own or sitting with your thoughts or journaling or whatever. Think of it like this. If you are not an active runner, the idea of blitzing a marathon tomorrow would be absolutely ridiculous. But if you break the inertia by going from not running to running a kilometer, that feels achievable. That's because it gets you into the zone of discomfort. It's beyond your current capabilities, but it's still achievable. The same is true for your mindset. Doing hard things builds mental callousing, which will help you learn more about yourself, dampen down anxiety, and shift your belief patterns. I love the idea of becoming anti-fragile, able to adapt and improve through difficult experiences. Not just resilient. Resilient means you can deal with difficult experiences or challenges in your life and maintain the status quo. Whereas anti-fragile means that you can adapt, evolve, and improve because of those challenging, difficult experiences. That's exactly the concept that we're talking about here. Entrepreneur Nat Eliason says, quote, "The ability to do hard things is perhaps the most useful ability you can foster in yourself or your children. and proof that you are someone who can do them is one of the most useful assets you can have on your life resume. Our self-image is composed of historical evidence of our abilities. The more hard things you push yourself to do, the more competent you will see yourself to be. If you can run marathons or throw double your body weight over your head, the sleep deprivation from a newborn is only a mild irritant. If you can excel at organic chemistry or econometrics, onboarding for a new finance job will be a breeze. But if we avoid hard things, anything mildly challenging will seem insurmountable. We'll cry into TikTok over an errant period at the end of a text message. We'll see ourselves as incapable of learning new skills, taking on new careers, and escaping bad situations. So, hopefully by now I've convinced you in the power of doing this. How do you go about doing it though? What do you do? Well, I would encourage you to start small and see this as a tiny experiment. Something like, I will do one hard thing every day for 7 days to see if it makes me feel more in control, more confident, less stressed out, or whatever the quality is that you're looking to improve on. Then after a week, review your progress. And if it's gone well, you can expand out further. In order to help my mastery clients, I have put together a specific challenge that is categorized by physical discomfort, social discomfort, psychological discomfort, emotional exposure, discipline and friction, and metacognition. So there's no right answer, right way to do this, but you could either pick a mix across those categories, or one of those categories really resonates with you, then pick that and do either the same thing every day for 7 days or a pick and mix from that category of difficult things. There's no right or wrong answers. The only thing to do is to push yourself to do something difficult and prove that you can become the action taker that you want to be. So if your challenge is when your training gets a bit difficult, you're liable to give up, then maybe physical discomfort is something that you should focus on. If you're an introvert and you want to be more extroverted, then social discomfort is definitely something to embrace. And the flip side of that, if you're an extrovert and you would like to be more comfortable with your own thoughts, then metacognition and personal reflection is something that you should focus on. If you struggle with consistency and procrastination, then discipline is a great challenge to work on. If you struggle to articulate your emotions or you struggle with difficult emotions, then emotional discomfort is something to potentially embrace. And if you struggle with all or nothing thinking, perfectionism and things like that, then psychological discomfort might be one to consider. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll give you a couple of examples of things that you can try in each of the categories. So physical discomfort. 2 things you can try. Firstly, cold shower. Classic example, but finish your shower with 30 to 90 seconds of cold. No easing in, no gradually reducing the temperature. Actually, that just makes it worse. Just blast it on the coldest possible temperature, count down from 30. Or another example, next time you feel low motivation to train, don't listen to it and skip your workout or put it off from tomorrow. Do it anyway. Think, okay, if I show up, do the warm up, I've got permission to just leave the gym after that. What you'll find is, actually, you can train with low motivation. It should not be a barrier to success. You can actually do it. Social discomfort, my favorite. Make eye contact and say hello to 3 strangers a day. Or in a group conversation or a meeting, be the first to speak up or be the first to introduce yourself to somebody else. The funny thing about this is, like, in social situations, everyone's waiting for everybody else to make the first move. People are actually grateful if you introduce yourself and ask someone about them. Everyone wants somebody else to do it. If you are that person, people will think, that guy's got it together. Psychological discomfort. Delay gratification intentionally. For example, if you feel the need to reach for a snack or reach for your phone or some other dopamine-inducing activity, give yourself permission to do it, but say, I'm waiting 10 minutes and then I'm going to allow myself to do it. What you may find is you wait 10 minutes and then the desire to do it's actually passed. Sit with that discomfort, delay gratification. Or another example, write down something you've been avoiding or something you're scared of doing. Then take the first 2-minute action towards overcoming it. I talked about the power of asking yourself what you're scared of doing in the procrastination episode. This is why, because acknowledging and understanding that fear is the first step to actually taking action to overcome it. Emotional discomfort. Admit you don't know something. That might feel uncomfortable. Or share a fear or a doubt that you have at the moment with someone that you trust. Put yourself out there in a way that you have not done before. Discipline. Eat a simple, boring, functional meal by choice. Not all of your meals have to be hyper palatable and absolutely delicious. What does it feel like to eat a boring meal? By the way, I eat the same thing for lunch every day. And yeah, it's nice, but it's not that nice. Or delay caffeine for a day, or at least for 90 minutes after waking up. Sit with that discomfort of wanting something to feel more alert, to feel more energized, and caffeine being the tool that gives you that, but delaying actually acting on it. Metacognition and reflection. Write down 3 things you're grateful for. For some of us, that is really difficult, especially if you are someone who tends towards negativity. Or notice the moment you want to escape or change a situation and sit with that for at least 10 seconds. A great example of that is you're in an awkward social situation and someone reaches for their phone. What happens if you don't reach for your phone? What happens if you're waiting for a bus, everybody else is on their phone, you just delay the urge? What happens? How does it feel? They are just examples. You can come up with your own. The point is that it should be something that's low risk, minimal downside, but huge upside. And it might not feel like huge upside in the moment, but if you consistently put yourself in situations where you're disrupting the status quo, you're overcoming inertia, you're embracing discomfort, then you will build more confidence, more self-belief, more courage, more assertiveness, and all of those qualities that you want. All of those things that are part of you already, they are within your potential. All you need to do is tap into them, train them, and learn them as new skills. Just like you train your muscle groups in the gym, just like you train your cardiovascular health on the treadmill or outside. These are skills that you can learn, improve, and excel at. Nothing is set in stone. You are incredibly malleable, and there is more within your power than you give yourself credit for. For me, this has helped me become more assertive in awkward situations, more comfortable just being myself and showing up authentically, more confident to stand up for what I believe, more likely to do what I want to do, not what I think I should do, and ultimately, happier, healthier, and less caught up in my own thoughts. All from a few small daily actions. You can have that too. So drop a comment below and tell me what you are going to focus on first.